They said releasing games on the brand new Nintendo Switch 2 would be a guaranteed smash. Yet, a major third-party publisher reportedly labeled those early sales as the biggest disappointment of the year. That claim alone is enough to turn heads across the gaming universe, right? But what exactly is happening behind the scenes with Nintendo's latest console? And more importantly, why are so many third-party titles struggling to capture the limelight they so desperately crave? Welcome to our in-depth look at the unfolding drama surrounding the Nintendo Switch 2's launch saga, where beloved Nintendo exclusives are holding their ground, and outside publishers like Capcom, CD Projekt, and Sega might be feeling more than a little left out. In this episode, we are going to peel back every layer, how the sales figures compare to the original Switch's launch, what the mysterious game key card format means for both publishers and players, and whether this uphill battle for third-party success hints at deeper issues or is simply part of Nintendo's long-established pattern of exclusivity dominance. Be sure to stay locked in, because today we are leaving no stone unturned, from the day one lineups that tried to steal thunder from iconic Nintendo properties, to the nervous whispers of insiders who say these first-week results are below our lowest estimates. We will also weigh the significance of 13 third-party titles heading to store shelves alongside a console that has already sold more units than its predecessor did in the same time frame, and yet still yields sales numbers that some consider underwhelming. Plus, we will delve into the long-term plans publishers are quietly hatching in an effort to turn the tide. If you end up appreciating the deep dive, give a friendly nod to show your support, maybe a quick follow so you can keep up with all the upcoming revelations in the fascinating world of gaming. Let us begin. The first jolt of intrigue arrived with a shock statement. Third-party games are underperforming on the Nintendo Switch 2, a statement capturing attention not just from fans who adore Nintendo's in-house creations, but also from those who anticipated the new console as a chance for publishers beyond Nintendo to claim a bigger slice of the market. After all, everyone recalls how the original Switch started out with a narrow library, with only 5 notable third-party releases at launch back in the year 2017. But the promise was that this time around, fresh from the massive success of the first Switch, Nintendo was finally rolling out a more robust library, featuring 13 third-party titles from a variety of publishers big and small. On paper, that seemed like a winning approach. More games, bigger community hype, greater hardware availability. So, how could these new watchers of the gaming industry be so deflated? It all starts with that staggering figure from the game business, reporting that around 62% of physical game purchases for the Switch 2 in the United States during the console's launch week belong to Nintendo's own lineup. Keep in mind that does not even factor in the unstoppable Mario Kart World console bundle, which itself comes with a digital copy of the fast-paced racing phenomenon. Certainly, it is a testament to how strongly fans gravitate toward Nintendo's first-party franchises, classics that have historically led the company's hardware to new heights. However, this scenario sets the stage for a deeper complication. If third-party offerings are overshadowed to this extent, is there any hope for other publishers to thrive in the long run? Some would argue that certain dismal or below estimates sales reflect how gamers reflexively gravitate toward proven Nintendo icons at hardware launch time. The early wave of Switch 2 owners is presumably dominated by brand-loyal fans, the sort of people who would basically buy a new Zelda, Donkey Kong, or Mario game sight unseen. They might simply not care about picking up a title from outside publishers in those hectic launch weeks, since they are too busy diving into that brand new Mario Kart World, or either of the 2 Zelda Switch 2 Editions. A question arises. If fans have an entrenched love for Nintendo exclusives, is it realistic to expect them to venture into third-party territory so soon? Yet, context matters. Critics point to an eye-opening comparison. The original Switch saw about 81% of physical first-party games sold during its first month on the market, which was a crushing blow to smaller publishers who pinned their hopes on catching a wave of new console excitement. So, if the new Switch 2's figure is only around 62%, is that actually better news? On the surface, yes, it might signal a more balanced market share than the original Switch had initially. However, the game business warns that these numbers can mislead. The Switch 2 tackled an even bigger market base right out of the gate and boasted nearly triple the options for third-party selections. That expansion, ironically, still did not prevent many of those third-party launch games from ending up with painfully light sales. The question is why. Some hypothesize that the Switch 2's new Game Key card system is partially to blame. This approach to distribution means that many publishers, especially those with large file sizes, will not provide the entire game on a single physical cartridge. Instead, players must complete a hefty download or jump through extra hoops. Skeptics suggest that die-hard physical game collectors resent having to rely on partial downloads to properly enjoy their new purchases. More significantly, those uncertain about the hardware's differences from the original Switch might be reluctant to shell out premium prices for older re-releases or remastered titles that have already been available on other platforms for years. One cannot escape the possibility that the caution of certain fans points to broader concerns. Are these third-party publishers simply rehashing well-worn games with minimal enhancements, hoping to capitalize on the Switch 2 hype? Or is Nintendo's hardware truly lacking something crucial that third-party titles need to flourish in the console space? The portability of the Switch brand was undeniably a huge selling point when the original console hit the shelves, but that novelty factor is not quite as strong this time. People might be looking for fresh experiences that expand on the portable home hybrid concept, not just a slew of older titles finally ported to Nintendo's architecture. Now, let us not forget the power of nostalgia. The Switch 2 is not just a gaming console, it is a direct invitation to revel in Nintendo's beloved library of IPs. We see this spelled out in the massive success of Mario Kart World, featuring updated tracks and new gameplay twists that keep even longtime players firmly glued to their seats. We see it in the Zelda Switch 2 Editions that push the boundaries of how expansive and immersive a handheld console game can be. And soon, fans will be in line for the rumored Donkey Kong Bonanza, a high-energy platformer promising to recapture the adventurous spirit of Donkey Kong's older outings. Each of these first-party blockbusters builds a pre-sale buzz that few non-Nintendo publishers can match. For many gamers, the perennial dilemma arises. Do you spend your hard-earned money on a safe bet, a must-have Nintendo classic that is always the talk of the town? Or do you gamble on a lesser-known entity that might not get the same marketing push, social media coverage, or sense of community hype? The likelihood is that the average consumer might have a certain budget for new games around a console launch, and that budget quickly vanishes once a brand new Mario adventure or Zelda epic arrives on store shelves. This scenario, repeated console generation after console generation, can inadvertently stifle the early success of third-party teams who genuinely want to bring their projects to the Switch 2's audience. Of course, none of this is to say that all is doom and gloom for external publishers. Some insiders cling to the idea that big releases from Capcom, Sega, or CD Projekt will gain momentum as more console units find their way into households. Indeed, historically, certain slow burns, like older RPGs or cult-favorite action games, can blossom months after an initial launch if word of mouth is strong, and the library diversification appeals to those players who finish their big Nintendo fixer-uppers and want something fresh. The question is whether these publishers can hold out until that shift happens, or if a rocky first impression is enough to scare them away from focusing on the Switch 2. In addressing publisher frustration, a big unknown is the extent to which Nintendo might intervene to smooth over relationships. Nintendo is famous for charting its own path, sometimes to the chagrin of third-party publishers who want better development tools, more straightforward distribution, or guaranteed marketing support. Yet it has also shown a willingness to collaborate. Special limited-time in-game events for major third-party titles, cross-promotion with big franchises, or updated console features that cater to big developers. One might wonder if the lukewarm initial performance of third-party titles will push Nintendo to accelerate negotiations for limited exclusives or provide unique hardware features that third-party studios can harness to stand out. Concerns about the Game Key card approach may be a chance for Nintendo to step in and facilitate a better hardware-software synergy. If players are put off by partial downloads or complicated install processes, perhaps a new iteration of the system can hold more data or reduce the inconvenience for brand new owners. Will these issues be resolved swiftly before the first wave of potential buyers pass final judgment on the console? Or will the frustration linger, feeding negative word of mouth that certain big titles cannot offer a cohesive plug-and-play experience? Even so, a chunk of the blame might lie with certain publishers themselves. Not every third-party developer invests in the marketing or adaptation necessary for success on a Nintendo platform. In many cases, players perceive a half-hearted approach, a short-on-features port, no exclusive content, or incomplete optimization that leads to less than stellar performance. If owners feel that third-party games on the Switch 2 are mere afterthoughts, that sentiment alone can doom sales. The cyclical nature of poor sales lead to smaller dev budgets lead to further subpar ports is well documented, and it is a pattern that publishers must break if they wish to stand toe-to-toe with Nintendo's own superstars. Lest we forget, many of the third-party titles brought to the Switch 2 at launch are a few years old already. As advanced as the technology might be in the updated hardware, it is tough to generate hype for re-releases of older games when there are fresh first-party behemoths hogging the spotlight. Indeed, a game that was introduced, say, 5 years ago on other platforms might well be overshadowed by the brand recognition and nostalgia factor of a new Mario or Zelda. That is not necessarily a sign that third-party games can never flourish on the Switch 2. Rather, it suggests the timing and selection must be more carefully curated in order to compete effectively. Here is a moment to energize ourselves. If you are enjoying this closer look at how major companies balance risk and reward on Nintendo hardware, show your excitement by tapping that subscribe button right now. It might not seem like much, but your support ensures we can continue digging into the hidden stories, revelations, and insights that shape the gaming industry. Nintendo, for its part, may have little incentive to alter a formula that historically works in its favor. For decades, the company's strategy has centered on building top-tier first-party franchises that are system sellers all on their own. Hardly any gaming fan can resist a brand new entry in the Zelda series or a high-octane Mario Kart offering. It is the carrot that draws millions of people to buy Nintendo consoles, no matter what else is going on in the industry. If, in the process, third-party titles do not gain the traction they desire, that might not cause Nintendo leadership to lose sleep at night. They have always survived, indeed, thrived, on their exclusive library, supported by a loyal fan base that does not seem to waver. Still, we must keep in mind that many third-party developers have seen impressive sales on Nintendo platforms once the system is in more households. The original Switch, after its shaky start, ended up hosting many success stories outside the realms of Mario, Zelda, or Donkey Kong. Titles as varied as monster hunting adventures, farm simulators, and epic role-playing sagas found an eager audience, even if that audience was overshadowed for the initial few months by the gravitational pull of Nintendo's biggest brands. Perhaps third-party developers have to play the long game with the Switch 2, waiting for the dust to settle and the console to proliferate among a less brand-exclusive crowd. Another curious point is that brand recognition extends from the console's established identity as a fun, approachable, and often family-friendly platform. In that sense, third-party titles that cater to a more casual or broad audience might stand a greater chance of success than heavily niche or mature games. For instance, Capcom might see better results with a spin-off that aligns nicely with the console's target demographic, as opposed to trying to shoehorn a gritty, realistic game into an environment best known for bright colors and cartoonish mascots. The synergy of brand identity and game content can make or break a title's momentum. Then there is the question of future exclusives. Often, a third-party publisher can boost their visibility on a Nintendo console by offering something that cannot be found anywhere else, or by capitalizing on features unique to the device. This is far from easy, considering the expense of custom development and the risk that a new exclusive might not pay off, but it can create a golden opportunity. If one publisher cracks the code and delivers a major hit that both feels right for the Switch 2 hardware and leverages the quirks of Nintendo's ecosystem, it may encourage others to follow suit. Alternatively, if attempts to produce new content specifically catered to the Switch 2 continue to yield underwhelming sales, that might push developers to divert their resources back to other platforms. When it comes to analyzing these initial data points, we should remember that the Switch 2 is barely out of the starting gate. Many console launches have distribution hiccups, incomplete game libraries, or marketing misfires, only to morph into unstoppable juggernauts once the dust settles and the system finds its long-term identity. Whether this slow start for third-party titles remains a footnote or becomes emblematic of a persistent problem depends on how both publishers and Nintendo adapt in the coming months. Maybe it will serve as a wake-up call for publishers to refocus on delivering fresh experiences rather than older ports. Gamers themselves hold a large part of the power here. They vote with their wallets. If enough players demonstrate that they are genuinely hungry for something beyond the standard in-house franchises, and they reward third-party devs who provide that variety, the numbers can shift quickly. On the other hand, if the second wave of Switch 2 owners ends up just as enthralled by a new iteration of Donkey Kong or an upgraded Pokémon experience, the cycle might repeat itself, where side publishers watch from the sidelines until that initial first-party mania cools down. For now, the big question is, can new and exclusive releases from publishers like Capcom, Sega, or CD Projekt eventually pull fans away from the likes of Mario Kart World and the two Zelda Switch 2 Editions? Or does Nintendo's hardware remain primarily a gateway to classic Nintendo magic, leaving scraps for the few brave external studios? We should find out more as the console's first holiday season approaches, bearing the possibility of enticing holiday bundles, fresh expansions, and maybe even an unexpected partnership that will shake up the current status quo. Before we move on, if you are as eager as we are to follow every twist in this gripping narrative, take a quick moment to give us a thumbs up or share our content with a friend who lives for gaming drama. We only do these deep dives because you, the passionate fans, want the real story behind the headlines, and it is always exhilarating to take this journey together. In the final analysis, the Switch 2's future might hold a variety of possibilities. Yes, the console has come out swinging with a larger first-week hardware sales figure than its predecessor, and that momentum might well keep building as Nintendo devotees clamor for the next generation of beloved franchises. But the puzzle remains. Will that success trickle down to third-party developers struggling to gain ground, or will it cement the status quo that has dogged Nintendo devices for decades? Early data may look bleak, but these are only the first chapters in what could be a sprawling story of ambition, adaptation, and ingenious new experiences if the right mix of creativity and perseverance is applied. No doubt, publishers are anxiously awaiting the moment when the Switch 2's unstoppable hype meets a fervent desire for fresh gameplay that goes beyond the classic Nintendo lineup. The question is whether that moment will arrive soon enough for them to see the fruits of their endeavors. In the meantime, the console sails confidently on, propelled by the unstoppable power of iconic Nintendo releases that continue to define the gaming experience for millions worldwide. And that, as they say, is the hallmark of Nintendo's enduring brand power, sometimes ruthless to outside developers, but always enthralling to loyal fans. Stay tuned as this saga unfolds, because, rest assured, changes in marketing strategies, software distribution methods, and collaborative promotions could shift the current landscape in surprising ways. For now, we hold our collective breath and wonder if third-party publishers will find the formula to break through the thrall of iconic Nintendo dominance, or if those big names will continue to be dwarfed by the unstoppable might of Mario, Link, and the rest of the beloved cast that have, once again, stolen the show on Nintendo's newest stage.